One of the main factors in learning success is how to protect your attentional space. Attentional, and we have to answer a few questions. What is attentional space? Basically define it. Why do we have to protect it? And what happens when we are violating our attentional space frequently or early while processing information? Because this has severe consequences. Our attentional space is basically our ability to do some cognizant perception and to process information consciously. So we know what we are doing and what we are focusing on. This means we have basically only the ability to process about 40 bits in 1 second, which is a bit as a binary piece of information. But our body and our brain have to choose these 40 bits out of 11 million bits per second, which our body receives from the environment. So basically, I try to translate this into a spatial scale. This means if you have a stretch of about 1 kilometer, which is 1,000 meters, our brain only works with about 3.5 millimeters, which is this little speck here, during 1 second. And this causes, of course, problems. And this is one of the reasons why it is really easy to distract us. So what does that mean, attentional space? Basically, we have a general attentional space, these 40 bits per second, which can be filled. Either we can fill this attentional space, our focus, with complex tasks and things we really want to do. This means intentional learning. Or we can use routine tasks to fill up this space. I will talk about multitasking in a different little information piece. But in general, we have difficulties to work distraction-free. So we have to protect our attentional space. This means we have to protect it by choosing what we want to focus on, the topic, and not only the topic. It's far more effective also to focus on the goal. We always have to know why we're doing things, because this helps the brain to select the right information and kind of filter out irrelevant information. And another way is to try to get in a distraction-free environment, which means reducing clutter and stuff around you. Also, and I know this is really difficult for many people, we have to get rid, at least while we are working, and have kind of focus during a certain stretch of time of social media and especially push notifications. Because our brain is really not trained for working scientifically or for studying. Our brain is basically constructed or evolved during time to protect us against environmental changes and dangers. So it's the proverbial tiger in the woods which might kind of hunt us down. But we are not trained, or our brain did not evolve working with kind of immaterial stuff. And that is one of the reasons why it's really easy for us to get distracted by social media and kind of technical equipment. So like telephone, tablets, computers, and things like that. What happens when we violate our attentional space frequently while we are processing information? That's really interesting, because usually when we focus on something, we try to get information out of it, or to understand things and work with it. And this happens basically, or this doesn't happen, but our hippocampus is involved, which means that when we are working with things or focusing our attention on a certain task, automatically a part of this information is processed by the hippocampus into our memory. So we basically know what we have done. When we disrupt this informational processing, there happens a shift in the center of processing in our brain. So instead of processing the information and storing a part of it in our memory, now our brain shifts the processing into the basal ganglia, which means that we don't store properly the information in our memory system, and we develop memory problems. And I think many people know this. When you are multitasking and you have many things, basically you don't really know what you have done. So one step would be just reducing clutter, not only from the environment, but also declutter your task list and focus on the main topics and main tasks in order to prevent a shift and unintentional interruption of information processing.